الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم وجاعل النور من الظلم ومخرج الصبر من الألم فملقي التوبة على الندم فنشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم ونصلي على رسوله الأكرم للشرف الأشم والنور الأتم والكتاب المحكم وكمال النبيين والخاتم سيد ولد آدم الذي بشر به عيسى بن مريم ودعا لبعثته إبراهيم عليه السلام حين كان يرفع قواعد بيت الله المحرم فصلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى أتباعه خير الأمم الذين بارك الله بهم كافة الناس العرب منهم والعجم. فالحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. والحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. والحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا فصلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله واللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. Today I'm going to continue speaking with you about the passage that I've chosen to dedicate to the next series of khutbahs. That is the passage of Surah Luqman. That's the 31st surah of the Quran. And that's ayahs number 12 onwards, which is a passage about a father that has been singled out in the Quran in this way. He's not a prophet by most accounts. And I spoke to you last time about how Allah had given him wisdom, and the climax of that wisdom was to be grateful and to feel compelled to be grateful. But then Allah describes how, that wisdom that he was gifted with was passed on. And so this passage is going to be about him giving advice to his son. Before I get into the ayat themselves, I'm probably only going to be talking about the 13th ayat today. What I do want you to know is this passage goes on to ayah number 19. So from 13 to 19 is the advice that the father gives to the son. But in the middle of that, right after this first one, ayah number 13, and 14 and 15, Allah stops. So it's actually, he's talking to his son in ayah number 13, then he's talking to him again in number 16, 17, 18, and 19. But 14 and 15 is not part of that conversation. 14 and 15, Allah stops and says something himself. Like Allah makes a comment himself. It's as if, when a teacher is teaching, and sometimes a teacher's playing a video in class, right? So they play a video in class and they get through one scene and they hit pause and then they say something and they explain something and they hit play again, right? So there's the scene you were taken to, then the teacher's comments, and then continue back again from where we left off. This kind of thing happens in the Quran. Allah will take us to a scene where a father is giving advice to his son, right? And then he's going to hit pause and he's going to talk to us directly for a couple of ayat. As if before you go on, you need to hear this. You need or what you just understood so far, I need to help you internalize it by these comments. So these comments couldn't wait until the end. You get it? And then let's continue with the story. So that's actually how this passage is very beautifully structured. But anyway, let's talk today about ayah number 13. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ When Luqman said to his son, وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ as he was giving him counsel, يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ My son or my little son, يَا بُنَيَّ فُعَيْل is the ism tasghir. So my beloved son or my little son, my young son, لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ Don't associate anybody with Allah. إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ no doubt the association, meaning that kind of associating with Allah, truly is a great wrongdoing, and it's a great injustice. In this ayah, the first thing to note is that Allah did not simply give us some commentary about Luqman sharing wisdom with people around him, or his entire family, or his wife, or his family, his parents, etc., etc. There's different people you can talk to and share wisdom, and we don't even have to know. Sometimes somebody can say something wise. So Luqman said, "Don't do shirk," right? But the ayah isn't about just Luqman sharing wisdom. The ayah is about Luqman radiallahu anhu sharing wisdom with his son. So Allah goes out of his way to highlight a conversation that's happening between a father and a son. And this is representative of a parent and a child. But of course, in the most direct sense, it's talking to fathers. By extension, of course, it's talking to mothers too. It's talking to daughters too. But in the most immediate sense, you're getting an image of a father speaking with his child. And when he's speaking with his child, the language is really interesting. Allah doesn't just say, Luqman said to his son. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ, when Luqman said to his son. But there's a further qualifier, وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. This is where things get really interesting. And in fact, he was the one that was counseling him. Now, what is that jumla haliyah? It's called jumla haliyah in grammar. What does that do to the meaning? The first thing it does is it tells you that Luqman wanted to talk to his son about something about Allah's religion, something about not doing shirk, something about the faith, something about Islam, something I say all the time. He wanted to say that to him, but he didn't just say it to him. He found a time where he could tell that his son is willing to listen to some advice. He's tuned in. This is a good opportunity where I can tell from the facial expressions of my son, or the moment that we're having at this time, or the quietness that we have, or the lack of distractions that we have, that this is a good time to bring this up. In other words, it's very mindful of him to, and this is part of wisdom from the previous ayah, it's mindful of him to know that young men, and kids in general, but young boys, are easily distracted. So they're distracted playing video games, or they're distracted watching something, or talking to their friends, or they're distracted with just eating snacks, or their minds wander quickly. Getting the attention of a child is not an easy task, right? Teachers actually have to go through great lengths to keep the attention of a child, right? And perform all kinds of theatrics to keep the attention of a child. But for a parent, most of our relationships with our children end up boiling down to, what are you doing? Did you finish your homework? Okay, it's time for dinner. Okay, clean up your room. Okay, come on, we gotta leave. We're getting late. Where are your shoes? Why are your socks over here? That's our conversations with our kids. That's our and then when we do try to have a real conversation, so how was your day today? We ask these kinds of open-ended questions. How was your day today? And they say, well, it's good. And then you can have that same exact conversation 1,000 times, and the answer is going to be, oh, it's good. Who are you talking to? My friends. Which friends? They'll say like one-word answers, right? It's not a real conversation. It's just, can we get this over with so I can do what I'm doing, kind of thing. Or when parents come into a conversation, it's like, oh my God, inspection time. Like when a drill sergeant walks into a military camp, all the soldiers are chilling, relaxing, and the drill sergeant walks in and they're all like, just sit up. That, for a lot of parents, that's what the relationship turns into. Oh my God, Baba's coming. Dad's coming. Mom's coming. Oh, I hear the footsteps. So the point is, real conversation becomes very difficult because you're guarded, right? And real conversation becomes difficult because you're having, really at the end of the day, administrative conversations about food or homework or cleanup or tasks. But they're not real conversations. Or the closest thing to a real conversation is what shoes do I want to buy? If they come up to you and they want to talk to you about something and they really want to open up, is I feel like going to this restaurant, or I want to order this ice cream, or I want to get that food, or I want to get, we haven't gone out in a while. Let's go here, let's go there. So it's some activity that they'd want to do, or something you want to take them to, or you need them to get something done. These are the kinds of conversations that happen. And they all, of course, have their place. You're living under the same roof. But you know what? They also naturally create a distance. They start creating a distance between ourselves and our children because we're actually not having real conversations. Real conversations about what they feel. Real conversations that actually make them think about things other than what they're distracted with all the time. Food and games and school and trips are all distractions. They're always going to be there. Those things are always going to be there. But what do you feel about your brother? You guys fight a lot. So what's the best thing you like about your brother? What's the worst thing you like about what's the worst thing you don't like about your brother? And what's the best memory you have of him? Like probing questions like that get them to open up and they start sharing what they truly feel. Those are precious moments. Now the word ya'iduhu is important in the ayah because the word wa'd in Arabic, which is actually one of the words, its masdar, its infinitive form is used to describe the Quran itself. قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. A counsel that touches your heart has come to you from your master. So the idea, you can translate this as he was counseling him, he was advising him. But actually the implication here would be, Luqman said to his son at a moment where he can feel that his words are getting through to his heart. So he found an opportunity, he found a moment, and he capitalized on a moment where he was touching his son's heart. Those are not the did you finish your food conversations. Those are different kinds of conversations. Those conversations might have to be, and it might even be implied in the text with إِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ, that he said to his son as if nobody else is around. So maybe it's a good idea that, if you have more than one kid, for example, that two of you take a walk and just have a conversation, right? Because sometimes children get lost in the crowd too. Like they don't have individual attention from parents because obviously we're pulled in many different directions, but being able to find the time to have an individual conversation with a child is a very powerful thing. Those of you that are adults, and I'd like to see this actually in your comments, those of you that are adults and have good memories of your parents from the time when you were children, I would imagine you remember a time when you had some exclusive time with your father. Sometime he took you on a walk. Sometime he took you fishing. Sometime he took you on a trip. Sometime he made you ride with him on a horse. Sometime he talked to you about something. Or sometimes you fixed a car together with him. Those times where you are exclusive with your child and you did something together, they become imprinted memories. They become personality forming memories. Those things stick in their head. Years later, you don't remember all the conversations when you were 11 years old. You don't remember that. You don't remember things that happened when you were 7. You barely remember anything. You remember glimpses. But part of those glimpses, you will notice, are moments you spent with your father, with your mother that were special. They weren't just we ate together, because you did that every day. They weren't just they bought me a toy, because that happened every Eid. It wasn't just they got me clothes. It wasn't those things, buying stuff, doing the run-of-the-mill things. It was some conversation, some moment, some teaching moment. And those moments are actually part of the wisdom of parenting, to find those moments with our children. We may not realize the impact those conversations have on someone. In fact, those things you remember about your father or your mother, those conversations, if you go back and tell them, Mom, do you remember when you said this to me? They'll say, no. What? I said that? Really? Oh, I used to be pretty smart. But that was such a transformational thing for you, right? The point I'm trying to make is they won't remember that. They won't remember how significant it is. But you should know. You never know which moment with your child. I need to know. I'll never know which moment with my child is going to be truly significant. And I'm talking from the positive, and it's also should be mentioned from the negative. I don't know which conversation I have with my child where I was reckless, where I was hurtful, might be truly damaging. And if that has happened, I need to make sure I have some kind of, way to erase that or overcome that with a positive experience. These experiences are what kids are going to remember. That's what's going to build them. So in that moment when he has his child's attention, and in that moment when that child is actually open to listening, you can tell that they're opening up in a way that's different. They're actually answering in full sentences. They want to tell you what's going on instead of you probing it out of them like a root canal. It's actually them that want to engage in the conversation. When that's happening, in that moment, the father drops, Ya bunayya la tushrik billah, my beloved son, my little son. And it's so beautiful that he didn't just give him religious advice. He actually expressed his love for his child first. So now he sees that my child is in a place where his heart is softened. And I can see that. We're the best, readers of our children's emotions. We can tell from their face if something is wrong. We can tell from their face when they're feeling something. They're feeling vulnerable. They're feeling like they're let their guard down a little bit. Because, especially with teenagers, for example, they put a hard guard up. And when that guard goes down a little bit, you can tell. You're smart enough to know. And in that moment, the first thing you want to do is make them feel safe. Because, with kids, when they put their guard down, they feel scared. And they have to put their guard back up to feel safe again. But before they put their guard up, you can let them know that you're their guard. You can let them know that I can let them know that by first expressing not what we want them to hear from us, or what advice we want to give them, or what we want them to change, or what they're doing wrong, or what they could be doing more. We can put all of that aside. The first thing they need to hear from us is that we love them. And we love them the same as when we loved them when they were little kids. So even though this boy may be older, the words in the Quran are, Ya bunayya, my little son. And it's almost like my baby. Almost like my baby. You're a young man already, but I love you just like when you were my baby. And you're hugging this child, and you're putting your arm around this child, and you're praying for this child, and you're kissing their forehead, and you're doing all of that as if they're 3 years old, but they're actually 14 now. They're 16 now. They're 12 now. And you know what? In those moments, I'm 40-something years old. When my dad kisses my forehead, I feel like I'm 8 years old. Right? For those moments, you start melting too. That has an effect. So before the communication, the words are exchanged, there is the right time and the right occasion. وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. It also means وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. It suggests that whatever he's about to say, there's a larger conversation happening. Maybe he's giving him advice about how to make money, how to run the business. Maybe he's giving advice about school. Maybe he's giving advice about some friend's trouble that he's having. He's giving some counsel to him, some larger counsel. And in the middle of that counsel, he wants to bring Allah up. But he will first, he will make his child feel loved and therefore safe. Just like a small child feels safe around the parent. When they hear a loud sound, they run toward the parent and they want to cling. Or they want to sleep in the same bed because there was thunder outside, right? So Ya Bunayya is that giving of safety, giving of that emotional safety. Physical safety may already be there. It's that emotional safety. And once Ya Bunayya is said, my little son, my beloved son, my boy, Ya Bunayya, la tushrik billah. I'll translate casually first. Don't do wrong by Allah. Just, instead of saying, don't disrespect your father, be a good son, I need you to listen to me. When I tell you something, just do it. Like, those are moments of those counsels too, right? But he says, son, listen, I may be here one day, I may not. Right? I can tell you what to do today. I can tell you to pray. I can tell you to not go on the wrong websites or places on the internet. I can tell you to avoid this or that or the other. I can tell you to guard your eyes. I can tell you to stay away from kids at school that are doing drugs. I can tell you not to use these bad words that I overheard you use. I can tell you all of those things, but you know what? One day I'll be gone. And even if one day I'm not gone, most of the day I'm gone. I'm working. You're by yourself. But you know who's always there? Allah is always there. And when you think that you're in charge and you're free and you're no longer a slave, you don't have a higher authority, then you've put yourself next to Allah. Because Allah is the highest authority. Don't do that. I don't even mean to, I love you so much. I need you to know, because you know what kids start thinking? Kids start thinking that parents, all they want to do is impose their authority on them. And this father has such profound wisdom. He says, son, my authority, let's put that aside. Right now, I just want you to recognize Allah's authority. I just want you to know Allah is always there. And no one will love you like Allah does. No one will give you advice like Allah does. No one means well for you like Allah does. No one will protect you like Allah does. No one will take care of you like Allah does. No one is watching you like Allah does. No one is recording you like Allah does. No one will correct you like Allah does. No one can punish you like Allah does. I need you to know you can't put anything where those ideas, being answerable to someone, loving someone, finding guidance in someone, wanting to be the way someone wants you to be, those things only belong to Allah. Don't give them to somebody else. It's not just don't do shirk with Allah, meaning don't worship idols. Or don't believe in a Trinity, or don't believe in this. It's not just theology. This statement is about putting our faith in Allah above our faith in everything else. That's what his son is being told. Because for a young man, they're not in danger of worshiping idols. They are, however, in danger of اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ, their emotions, their desires, their hormones, their wants, their distractions. Those things can become a god. They become the only thing you ever worry about. If I have a son who's, every time I talk to him, he's talking about Marvel and the Avengers, or he's talking about, anime, or he's talking about video games, and that's all he ever talks about. Or this character, or that character, or this sport, or that sport, or this match, or that match, and this, MMA fighting, or the NBA finals, or which shoes are coming out, or what car, like that's all they're ever talking about. Those things are turning into a god. Because what ancient people used to do is they used to sit in front of idols all day and meditate, right? Think all about these deities. And now if your thoughts, if in here, you're invaded constantly with these things, these material things, these superficial things, then you're meditating over these things. That's what you're thinking about all the time. They've invaded your heart and your mind. And there is a place in our hearts and our minds that belongs to Allah. And you can entertain yourself. You can watch sports. You can play video games. So I do all those things too. You can do those things, but they belong in a lower shelf, way lower shelf by the shoe area in your heart. And then there's the higher shelves that only belong to Allah. And they can't take that place. And this father says to his son, don't do shirk with Allah. My son, I love you. Come here. I want you to be safe. Just don't forget Allah's authority over you. Don't forget why you're really here. You didn't come on this earth to play games. You didn't come on this earth to watch movies. You didn't come on this earth to look good. This is not why you were put on this earth. You were put on this earth to recognize who your master is and to serve that purpose. And while you're serving that purpose, you will enjoy many things in this life. But you will enjoy them as a slave. Don't forget that you're a slave. That's la tushrik billah. And if you forget that and you enjoy everything else, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. No doubt about it, shirk. It's a terribly misplaced crime. It's a terrible injustice. Dhulm, actually, in Arabic, they call it وَدْعُ شَيْءٍ فِي غَيْرِ مَحَلِّهِ. It's putting something where it doesn't belong. Dhulm, Urdu speakers, Hindi speakers, Bangladeshi speakers, dhulm has made its way into many languages. Dhulm means oppression in many languages. Okay, like a zalim, or they say zalim, as zalim in Arabic, can mean an oppressor. But actually, dhulm in its original meaning is something belongs somewhere, you put it in the wrong place. Like if you put shoes, took shoes, put them in a bookshelf. That's dhulm. You understand? Or if you put milk inside of the car instead of oil, that's dhulm. It's oppression to the poor car, but it's also misplacing something. The idea of misplacing something is dhulm. He says shirk is a terrible misplacement. It's a heinous, it's a great misplacement. What does it mean that it's a misplacement? There are some places in your heart that only Allah belongs. And you put other things there, you misplace those things. You understand? You misplace them. And once you misplace those things, then everything in your life gets misplaced. Every relationship gets misplaced. Every experience gets misplaced. Your judgment gets misplaced. Everything gets twisted around because you know what? You no longer have Allah in the right place in your heart. That means you don't have light. And when a person doesn't have light, then they're walking in the dark and they're stumbling on things and they don't know which way they're going. You'll lose purpose in your life if you do shirk. You'll misplace yourself. The ultimate wrong and the ultimate misplacement is this shirk with Allah. And the father is telling his son this as if to say, I may not have this opportunity to give this advice to you again. Allah knows how long life is. I don't know how long my life is. But you're going to have to make your own choices. And every time you're confronted with a choice, you're going to have to ask yourself, where is Allah in that choice? Is Allah the first consideration above all else when you make a choice? When I make a choice? Or is Allah, what Allah would want, you hear it, but you're like, no, but that's priority number 2 or 3, not right now, not over the weekend, Ya Allah. On Friday. Yours is Friday, but it's Saturday now. right? Or it's Friday night now. So let me do my thing. So we put Allah where He doesn't belong, and we put other things where they don't belong, and that's the first advice He gives to His son. What a powerful advice! There's some serious advice. In one ayah, it's actually teaching that we have to prepare our next generation to stand up on their own, to think for themselves. He didn't tell him, first pray, stay away from haram, right? Dress properly. All those advices we give to our kids, isn't it? Don't use bad words. Be careful who you make friends with. Don't eat that kind of food. Stay away from this. Don't go out late at night. There's a million advices we give our kids. But it's as if He gave this one advice that makes all those other advices almost irrelevant, or all those other advices now make sense to your son because this is there. Because when Allah is in the right place in the heart of a believer, then all the other counsel that comes from Allah, the counsel of guarding yourself, guarding your chastity, guarding your income, guarding your body, guarding your heart, guarding your character, all of that makes sense because now Allah is in the right place, right? And when Allah is not, why do I have to pray? Okay, fine. All right. Because that first advice has not been given in the right time, in the right moment, in the right way. And it's profound. That a parent has to do that. A parent has to do that. And that's one of the greatest wisdoms he was given. And this is some isolated man, Laqman, who Allah gave wisdom to be grateful, right? That's what we learned last time. This is what I'm going to conclude with. Allah gave him wisdom that he should be grateful. And the first thing we learn about him, we could have learned anything about him. Allah could have taught us anything about him. What He chose to teach us about him is, now that he has this wisdom to be grateful, the first thing he does is he shows that gratitude by taking any opportunity he can to share something beautiful with his son. Right? You know what that means? That us trying to find a way to give our kids good guidance lovingly is actually us being grateful to Allah. That's the height of wisdom. That's wisdom. And when we try to give advice to our children with harshness, or not taking into account the time and place, or not taking into account their temperament, or not taking into account that they're not feeling safe, that they still have their emotional walls up. We haven't broken them with ya bunayya. We don't take those things into account. We're missing wisdom. We're missing out on wisdom. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us wise in the way we deal with our children. And may Allah Azza wa Jal overlook our shortcomings and what we haven't been able to give to our children. May Allah soften the hearts of our young sons and daughters, so that they become better slaves of Allah than we ever could be. And that they live more meaningful lives, more purposeful lives than we could ever live. That they become a sadaqah jariyah for us and our parents and their parents. And that they become a means of spreading more good in the world than we could ever spread. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله رحمكم الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.